Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming today. My name's Amy O'Leary. I'm the Executive Director of SEMCOG, and I get the privilege of working with a bunch of great staff and a bunch of great mayors on a wonderful initiative we came to talk about today. So we thank you all for attending the Green Summit, Growing Our Resiliency, Equity, and Economy with Nature. So using nature-based solutions to help address some of our biggest challenges in the region. The initiative that we're speaking about today would not be possible with some early foresight and conversations funded by the Americana Foundation, so we want to recognize them. But I also want to recognize a few individuals that brought this up to SEMCOG, and just know that if it wasn't for them, this wouldn't be happening. We have, as all of you have, many pressing issues, and sometimes you need some leaders to press into you and bring you along. And I would say Chris Bunch from Six Rivers Land Conservancy did that for us, and was also willing to listen when we said it's more than land conservation in this region. We need to address some of these other challenges, like the amount of park space we have. We need to address the flooding issues we have in the region and the low tree canopy, amongst many others. So he was gracious enough not only to think of the idea, but be open, which a leader is, to the evolution of an idea. I also want to thank a couple of people that helped us really by just giving us advice along the way. Keith Cray is one of them. Raise your hand. He is the former director of the DNR, the Department of Agriculture, and many other things, but he's been sharing his wisdom with us along the way, and we couldn't have done it without him. And also Dan Wyant, who wasn't able to be here today, who was also the former director of the DEQ. All of this led to the formation of this initiative, and really, when we thought of this idea, and all of you, I think, can understand, it's hard to have what we thought was a great idea without the leadership at the top to push that idea. And that's where Mayor Hammoud from the city of Dearborn and Mayor Barnett were able to provide that leadership to this initiative, both in the formation of who all do we need to include and needs to be part of this conversation with us, but now as we shift and talk about what we've accomplished so far, but shift towards implementation. And I also need to say that we can only be as successful with strong leaders, but also with strong staff. And we have many SEMCOG staff here today to support this event, but specifically, this couldn't have been possible without Katie Grantham, who many of you work with more on the stormwater side, and Tyler Cliffman, who works with us more on the parks and climate work. Finally, I want to thank many of you who are on our Green Task Force. So if you were on the Green Task Force, if you could just raise your hand. And I'd like to acknowledge that, and thank you. So the Green Task Force was government, the private sector, nonprofits, and foundations. And like I said, the mayors were really a big part of figuring out who are those people that need to rally around this conversation. It can't just be government, it can't just be nonprofits, or it can't just be the private sector. So now I'd like to introduce Chancellor Grasso to give us a welcome to this great campus, and just let you know that he is an active part of what we're trying to do in greening the region as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amy. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here to the beautiful Dearborn campus, as well as the EIC. I want to call out Claudia Walters, who's the director of the EIC here, and she is our host for this event as well. I do want to note that they probably didn't know this when they invited me to welcome you all, but I am an environmental engineer, and I chaired the EPA Committee on Valuing Ecological Systems and Services. So this is squarely in my area of interest and expertise. So I am extra delighted to welcome you to this beautiful campus. I do want to just say a few things about Dearborn. We are part of the University of Michigan. We are a separate university. We get a separate appropriation from the state, so we don't get resources from the Ann Arbor campus, our little sister campus down the road. And we don't have a football team. But we have outstanding students here, and we have a different type of student here. Almost half of our students are first-generation college students, but they come in with high credentials and a strong work ethic, and they go out and do terrific things. So I am glad that we were able to host you, and we're an integral part of this region. This is a special place on this campus because it's part of our natural area, and it's been part of this campus since its founding in 1959. We are very committed to working to address the environmental challenges that we all face as a region and as a nation. We are part of the Ann Arbor Collective on reducing CO2 emissions. We have converted many of our fountains to water filling stations, and we've eliminated hundreds of thousands of bottles just on this campus, plastic bottles on this campus, which if you've been in Michigan Stadium, you can imagine each one of those seats with a water bottle that doesn't exist anymore because of this. And DTE recognized us as a leader in energy efficiency through several projects that we've had on campus this summer. We like to say often on this campus, go blue. And we also, sub rosa, say go green, but not the same way that the people up the road say go green. We are very much a environmentally driven campus here and on the other two campuses here. I want to single out Mayor Hammoud for his work in trying to change things in southeastern Michigan, especially around stormwater runoff and bioretention ponds and dealing with the flooding problem that we have. And we have that problem on our campus as well. And he's been a terrific partner in working with us. And he joined us on our town gown bike ride to really emphasize the use of active transportation in this region instead of getting in cars all the time. And I do want to note that I ride my bike to campus every day when I can. And having said that, I will just close by saying that we are very committed to working with all of you and trying to make this region a sustainable and pleasant and enjoyable place to live and work, not just for us, but for all the future generations that will be coming down the road. Go blue, go Dearborn, and go green.
Good morning. It's great to have you all in the greatest city in all the land. I have to say that before Mayor Barnett says it about some other city down the road. First and foremost, thanks for coming to the greatest University of Michigan campus that exists. I had the privilege of attending this university as well as also going to Ann Arbor. And what I can tell you what's unique about the city of Dearborn is that the students here are one of one. Every individual that attends this campus has a unique story to how they're attending. I am one of the first generation children who was able to graduate with a college degree when both my parents never had anything more than a high school degree. And one of the last classes I was honored to take was actually field biology, which was headquartered out of this building. And every day you'd come in throughout the summer months, 5 to 9 o'clock in the morning. So the day started very early, and you'd meet outside. Doesn't matter if it was raining or if it was sunshine, you'd start outside, you'd write down the temperature, you'd write down if it was, the dew was on the grass, and then Dr. Gelderloos had your field biology book. And you begin walking through the hundreds of acres that are out before you. And that's where I learned all of the trails. As a Dearborn native, I never had the opportunity, or really never took it upon myself to learn the trails until I took that course. And that was the summer I became a beekeeper. And if you've never had honey, there's something to be said about having honey off the comb. That was one of the greatest privileges of my life. And if I ever exit public service, you'd see me opening up a honey shop because it's something that I carry with me on and on. And really, that was the beauty of this campus. It was a campus that embedded itself with the nature right behind us and used it as a learning tool for the various students who took that opportunity upon themselves with the greatest of instructors. We might have gotten poison ivy a few times. The mosquito bites were miserable, but the learning lessons were well worth it and carry with us till this day. I want to thank SEMCOG. A round of applause really to the staff and to the leadership for coming forward with a tremendous idea to really emphasize this work towards green. And green is defined differently wherever we have been and in every conversation that we've been a part of. But really, I think it's about time that we as a Southeast Michigan community came together to identify metrics that we can all work towards, because nothing is worse than putting a task force together to just produce a report that we all walk away from. And what's really important now is, as we enter into the implementation phase, is also trying to advocate for the dollars that will assist all of our communities in actually accomplishing what we set out to accomplish. And so we were part of many conversations just this week with many of the legislators up in Lansing, because we do have a conservation majority. And I think that's extremely important for the state of Michigan, that we have a legislature that understands the demands and the needs and the problems that we're currently facing, and hopefully are going to supply us with the dollars that we need to make the investments necessary to help advance and improve the quality of life for our residents. And so today, myself, Mayor Barnett, and hopefully all of you are embarking on a commitment to pursue this vision throughout our communities and working strategically where we have opportunities and collaboratively with many of our regional partners. Implementation is going to look different for all of our cities, and I think that's what's most important. Some of us have to work on our tree canopy coverage, some of us have to work on stormwater retention, some of us have to work on mobility pathways across our cities, and that's okay. It shouldn't be cookie cutter. We shouldn't all be working on the same set of metrics. We shouldn't all be trying to tackle the same challenges under the green umbrella, because we have to tailor the policies that we implement towards helping address the issues impacting our residents or those nearest to the problems. That's what makes this task force so great, taking the collective input and coming up with something that actually applies to each and every single one of us through your input, which was most necessary. I think there are the leaves. Are we doing that portion now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop there before I give away what I was supposed to be doing, and turn it over to somebody who represents the, it's not the Barnett brother. We'd all love to be speaking at the microphone, but it's the next best thing. It's Mayor Brian Barnett from Rochester Hills.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. And thanks to Mayor Hammoud for his welcome. He is a dynamic leader and a really generous host, and he wanted me to share with all of you that I think as we wrap today at noon, that he hopes that you'll all join somewhere, stop somewhere in Dearborn for lunch, anywhere. Find a great Dearborn restaurant, and don't worry about your check. Just say Mayor Hammoud as you leave. And he's going to circle back later and take care of it. Let's give him a big round of applause for free lunch on that. Appreciate that. Well done. I too want to echo my thanks to the SEMCOG leadership, to Amy, to Katie and Tyler for their leadership in this. I think everyone, with the exception of the sketchy SEMCOG chairperson, Chris Barnett, is pulling in the same direction on this, and that's nice to see. Always nice. That's my brother, in case you're wondering if I'm really actually taking a real shot at someone up here. No, it's allowed. I've been a part of leadership in Southeast Michigan for a while. Been mayor of Rochester Hills now for 17 years, and throughout my time as mayor, I've seen efforts like this start and stop. And it really usually depends, their success usually depends on the way that they have engaged people along the way. And I'm proud of what this particular effort has done, led by, of course, SEMCOG, which is really the greatest tool we have in Southeast Michigan to gather people with similar passions together, and certainly oftentimes finding funding to make those passions a reality. Since November of last year, we've been meeting pretty regularly. Many of you have been a part of that journey as we've looked to see what this means for each of us in a very different and diverse region, right? Some communities have incredible tree cover. Some communities are plagued by flooding. Others have never seen flooding. There is a dramatic difference of experiences in green infrastructure across Southeast Michigan. And I think the beauty of what we've talked about and the beauty of the plan that we have really put together is that it is unique. There is a place for every individual, every community, really every family to find themselves in this effort moving forward. And we've got a demo that we hope you'll spend some time on later. We've got some wonderful concurrent sessions, but how it moves forward from here is really dependent not on myself or Mayor Hammoud or even Amy, but on you, on the way you take this message to your circle of influence, on the way you take this message to your family. In Rochester Hills, our Parks Department is vibrant, and it is under a title called Connecting People to Nature. And last year, I'm proud to say this, we had 1.2 million people visit our parks in Rochester Hills. The Tigers had 1.1 million people visit Comerica Park. I think it's because we put a better product on the field, but that's a separate story. We spend a lot of time and money engaging people in our park system. And that can be from active recreation to passive, to just educating people about what it takes to make your little part of Rochester Hills greener. Be a rain garden, or educating children, or talking about the responsibility we all have as leaders in our environment. So this is not a culmination of an event tonight. It is a continuation of a movement to make sure that we in Southeast Michigan recognize the resources that we have, the partners that we have along the way, and the support we have in each other to make sure that we take what we've talked about, what we've learned, what we've studied, what you have shared with us is important, and keep it alive moving forward. So I appreciate your time and attention today. I'm going to turn it back over to, I believe, Mayor Hammoud for some continuing remarks. And I think he said he's going to make all these next remarks rhyme. So let's give him a big round of applause. It's going to be incredible. If they don't rhyme, just boo.
Thank you, and if you're not aware, I actually have Mayor Brian Barnett's credit card, so do go to those lunches, request it, and it's Rochester Hills money. So I think at this point, I'll invite you to join me as well. But more than anything, as we both have already spoken to, we all have to make a commitment in some way, shape, or form, and we have to symbolize that in some way. I think many of you have already taken the first several steps, whether you've participated with us throughout this task force over the last several months. Hopefully you'll be joining us in exploring the demo and exploring the data that's provided and holding ourselves accountable. But that's really what this all falls on, is holding one another accountable. This is far more important than any lasting legacy that Mayor Barnett might have at Rochester Hills or myself might have in the city of Dearborn, because what we're working on has to outlast all of us. That is the way that we make generational impact. When I think of my daughter who's 16 months old, the work that we're doing today will really benefit her and her generation, God willing, to ensure that they grow up in a society where they can explore and enjoy the environment to a far greater and stronger capacity than we have ever had the opportunity to do so. And that's why we do the work that we do today. So with that, I think I'll invite you. What we're going to do is sign the symbolic leaf. And the leaf will be hopefully placed on this growing tree with all of your commitments and all of our commitments collectively as Southeast Michigan, to demonstrate that more than just words on paper, we have our signatures on leaves, but that's our way of saying we stand for this adoption of these green infrastructure policies, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable to trying to reach these metrics across the board, and again, uniquely to each and every single one of our communities.